Welcome to LSB Feaster's Radio Aircheck and Classic TV channel.
The president says Katrina's destruction is the top priority. Hello, everybody. I'm Jane Skinner. President Bush is cutting his vacation 2 days short to monitor Hurricane Katrina recovery efforts. He referred to the devastating storm during his speech today. It was marking the 60th anniversary of the end of World War II. He was at a naval air station in California. Mr. Bush drew parallels between the U.S. victory over Japan and the war in Iraq. He expressed appreciation for the sacrifices of American troops in both wars. Well, some pretty good news on the economic front. Consumer confidence numbers have been coming in stronger than expected, jumping 2 points from July to August. Those numbers are closely watched because consumer spending accounts for 2/3 of the activity. There have been concerns that rising energy prices might put a damper on consumer optimism. Analysts point to an improving job market for the latest boost. General Motors is recalling more than 800,000 SUVs and trucks in 14 northern states. That recall involves the 1999 through 2002 Chevy Avalanche, Silverado, Tahoe, and GMC Sierra, Yukon, and Yukon XL. Salt and corrosion and road grime, they're all affecting the anti-lock brake system, and that led to more than 200 low-speed crashes. And those are some of your headlines at the bottom of the hour. Time now to send you back to Shepard, who is in New Orleans. Shepard, a couple of quick questions for you. One of them, there's a lot of talk about these worsening conditions inside the Superdome there. You've got several thousand people. Is there a plan at this point to get them into temporary housing, and what would be a timeline for something like that?
Well, they don't know a timeline yet, Jane. Every emergency management official whom I've heard speak today said we're having a hard time with timeline. What we know is that the water is rising around the Superdome, that the engineer for the Superdome has now said that the generator which supplies it with minimal power, not including air conditioning, is showing, quote, signs of strain, and they're trying to figure out what to do about that. They've set up a refugee camp in the city of Gonzales, which is about a 45-minute drive under normal conditions from here. Of course, that requires that you have a car to be able to get there. So they're trying to figure out ways to get people out of here, and they want to do it before sundown tonight because it is a long and hot and almost indescribable night in the city. Jane, I covered Andrew and I covered Hugo. Jane, this is different. It's different in ways that are impossible to quantify. Sitting in the center of the city of New Orleans with no lights anywhere, no water if you need it, no police if you need them, no nothing. It's so lonely. And I want to quote someone on the radio today. This is WWL Radio, the emergency management station here in New Orleans, and I want to find it because it really struck me. The man who's been on this radio station for many years and has seen many disasters here said it's, quote, dark, eerie, lonely, scary, depressing, and dangerous place. And it promises to get more so as the days go by. Local authorities are already talking about their attempts now to get the federal government in, and I'm confident from everything I've heard that the federal government will comply in every way to get the federal government in here to make sure that they can continue to establish order. It's an enormous task, Jane.
Yeah, enormous is the understatement. It certainly looks very different than anything else, Shepard. I do have to ask you, and I know you're going to tell me not to ask about you guys and the crew, that the people there are more important, but when you were talking about the drive-in and not being able to find gasoline, water, etc., what do crews do who are trying to cover this? Where do you guys stay? How do you get food and water?
We're not sure yet, Jane. We really don't know. And I think I don't normally like to talk about what we do because this is the story back behind us, but it's sort of all we can report right now. And here's the situation today. This morning, everybody thought that the bigger story, not that it's not an enormous disaster in southern Mississippi. My God, I mean, that's my home. And it's gone in large parts for many miles. But we finally realized how much bigger this is. This is an enormous functioning city, which no longer functions and won't function, according to local authorities, for months. So what we did was, the thinking was that we should go to Mississippi. Mississippi is that way. You can't go that way. The bridge is out, it's flooded, the causeway has shifted, it's not safe. So you have to go that way and come around and go to Baton Rouge, which is 90 miles. And then you have to go up Interstate 55 and come back around. So what should be a 60-mile drive is instead about a 300-mile drive. And that's with bad traffic. So we figured we'll try. We went an hour and a half. We listened to the radio. Finally, emergency management officials were coming on. The same emergency management officials who yesterday were talking about a few weeks, are now talking about a few months for schools and power. And they're not sure they can keep those deadlines. So we turned around. We remembered one gas station over a 70-mile stretch that was open. Only one. And not a single business for 70 miles to get water or Starburst or milk or baby formula or wet naps or anything. So we turned around, and we need gas. So we went to try to get gas. That gas station, the only one for 70 miles, was now out of gas. And it's that way as far as you can go in that direction. It's impossible to wrap your arms around how big this is, because normally the news can cover the story. But this story stretches for hundreds of miles, and it stretches to a place in the south and east from here, and in Plaquemines Parish and St. Bernard Parish, where even all of the emergency rescue personnel haven't gone. The local emergency management station is WWL 870. They have not, last night at midnight, the man manning the emergency radio station said it has been ominously and eerily quiet from Plaquemines County. We've not had a single report from Plaquemines County, and that's because the southern tip of Plaquemines County has been taken away by the Mississippi River. It's gone. The levees are gone. It's all underwater, and they haven't heard from anyone there. They will hear from them. They will recover. The mayor has been insistent today. I can see a light at the end of the tunnel, said the mayor of New Orleans. I'm not sure where it is or how long it'll take to get there, but we'll rebuild and we'll be better than we are now. I believe him. The question is, how long is it going to take, Jen? And I don't think anybody knows yet. I want to go now to Steve Harrigan, who's in Gulfport, Mississippi. I mean, this is awful, and yet Gulfport, Mississippi, just as it did along with Waveland, Mississippi, and Pass Christian in 1969 when Hurricane Camille came in and destroyed the economy of southern Mississippi and wiped out lives and livelihoods for decades. They've been hit again in much the same way, and now the recovery process is beginning. Steve Harrigan, update us, if you will.
Shepard, this is a typical house right now near the coast in Gulfport, Mississippi. As you can see, it's a wooden frame house and not much is left. It's the same as just about every other house on this street. Now, with me now is probably one of the luckiest men in Mississippi, Richard Harston. Now, Richard, you decided to ride out the hurricane in this house where there's no more roof, no more walls. Tell me, why did you do that?
Well, I had made arrangements to go with some friends to the other side of Orange Grove and back away from the beach, and tried to call them, and I couldn't get a line out. So many times the title surge they say is coming hasn't come in the past, so I just decided that I'd probably be all right here.
So you heard there were bad hurricanes before. It didn't pan out. This time you decided to ride it out here. Now, 4 tornadoes passed by this house. After you lost your roof, you decided to try and make a run for that post office, that stone building down there. Tell us what happened when you got out onto the street.
When I got out into the street, I hit the ground about 150 yards up, and then I hit it again about 1,000 yards on the backside of the Oasis Hotel.
So you remember running out here, hitting the ground. Suddenly, you were 150 yards down the road. Suddenly, another 1,000 yards down the road. You literally flew down your own front street.
Yeah, pretty much.
And are you injured at all?
No, I was fine. As soon as I got around the hotel, I ducked in behind the hotel, and I was...
Not a scratch on him after flying 1,000 yards, a man who tried to ride out the hurricane in this house. Shepard, some more video we'd like to show you. We can't get to it ourselves with our truck because it's just about 1,000 yards down the street, but there are so many big containers blocking the road, no one can get there. It's one of those sea lions. There are some tourist attractions around here. One of them had 4 sea lions in it. Those sea lions now are scattered all over southern Mississippi. This one in a puddle down the street, slowly burning to death here in the mid-afternoon Mississippi sun. Shepard, back to you.
Steve Harrigan live for us on the southern coast of Mississippi. Steve, thank you. Our best to all of those there in their efforts to rebuild and recover and bury their dead in the days and weeks ahead. An enormous crisis, an enormous national disaster is upon us. President Bush, of course, is cutting his vacation in Crawford short and returning to the White House. We'll get the latest on that in just a moment. The latest quote from the president of Jefferson Parish here in New Orleans: "We'll no longer be the Jetsons here. We are now the Flintstones, operating on the most minimal circumstances known to man with the possibility of disease ahead. So much work in the city of New Orleans and down the coast now necessary. And so many prayers are now asked for by the tens of thousands of people left behind. Coverage continues in a moment.
You can run around looking at house after house after house, or you can relax. JustListed.com emails you every home you want to see as soon as it's listed. JustListed.com, where your next home finds you.
The first week of school, they have a lot of credit card vendors out on the plaza. They advertise free stuff to sign up. It was free money. I just went crazy on it. I would get mailings from collection agencies, and that's when it got kind of scary. I started to really care about my credit after I bought my car. I got a really, really bad interest rate, and that's when I went on the internet and I found True Credit.
Log on to TrueCredit.com and get your complete 3-in-1 credit report and your credit score. Order this special TV offer online now and receive weekly fraud alert emails for a year and $25,000 of identity theft coverage at no cost to you.
It's very exciting for me to log on, buy a report, check out my score, and see how much it's improved. It's important to pull your credit at least once every quarter. You just don't know what's going to be on your credit report. It's a lot easier to manage. I still have my car. I'm an assistant to a loan officer for a bank. I just love the irony in that. And True Credit's been great.
Pro football. A game for the ear and the eye. A 3-hour carnival of color, sound, and action.
NFL Sunday Ticket provides the most NFL games anywhere, up to 200 in total, and it's only available from DirecTV.
For the player, victory makes the game glorious. For the fan, glory is the game.
Sign up now and get 4 free months of DirecTV's best programming package. Call 1-800-DirecTV.
Continuing coverage now of the human tragedy in Louisiana and South Mississippi. The President of the United States is returning from Texas to Washington now to oversee what's happening here. Wendell Goler, our White House correspondent, is live there for us now. Wendell.
Shepard, the president will meet with several of his cabinet secretaries, half a dozen of them, when he returns to the White House tomorrow afternoon. Their departments are assessing the impact of Katrina right now, and aides say Mr. Bush may himself travel to the region later this week to get a first-hand look at the devastation if his aides say his visit won't compromise relief efforts. Meanwhile, we can tell you Fox News has learned several oil companies have now officially requested the president release or loan them oil from the strategic oil reserve. No decision on that yet. The scope of the devastation, described by the head of the Federal Emergency Management Agency as catastrophic, is what convinced the president to give up the last few days of his vacation and coordinate relief efforts from the White House. He has been talking regularly with the governors of the affected states. He'll hold a conference call with them before leaving Crawford tomorrow. The president talked about the aftermath of the storm before a speech to sailors and Marines in Coronado, California. The speech marked the 60th anniversary of Japan's surrender in World War II. The president drew a parallel with the war in Iraq. Mr. Bush asked the nation to pray for the people of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, and he promised those people the government is doing all it can to help them.
The federal, state, and local governments are working side by side to do all we can to help people get back on their feet. And we have got a lot of work to do. Our teams and equipment are in place, and we're beginning to move in the help that people need.
It is still unclear how much damage Katrina did to Gulf of Mexico oil rigs, which supply this country with about 1.5 million barrels of oil a day. Ivan put some of them out of commission for a year. There are indications Katrina's damage may be less severe, but officials note it took several days before Ivan's full impact was known. Energy investors are nervous. They have pushed the price of oil futures that is, back above $70 a barrel. The wholesale price of gasoline up now 50 cents to about $3 a gallon. Shepard, all that's headed our way. Back to you.
Wendell Goler live for us at the White House. Wendell, thanks very much. With us now on the line is Peter Tehan. He's with the National Red Cross. Peter, thanks for being with us. Is it your belief yet that you have a sense for the enormity of this disaster? And if so, is it your sense that at some point the Red Cross or someone will be able to get into the center of New Orleans and get people food and water?
Well, the American Red Cross's mission is mass care, which includes shelter, feeding, and meeting the emergency needs of clients. And we do that with a lot of different partnerships. And one of those partnerships is working closely with the federal agencies and voluntary organizations to make sure that the number one thing that's important in a disaster, and that's the victims and their families, are taken care of in disasters. So, we'll work with other agencies, get the job done to make sure that we get the food and get shelter to these people as needed.
Peter, is it your sense that you or the American people, for that matter, or even locals, yet have a grasp of the enormity of this catastrophe?
I believe that the dynamics of this disaster will be understood in the weeks to come. I think that right now in a response mode that I'm in, for instance, so focused on getting help to the families who need the help. It's what happens down the road will be addressed as we get to it. But we've worked hard as a Red Cross with local communities to make disaster plans, to be prepared, train our volunteers, and we have over 2,000 volunteers coming into the coastal area to help in this relief operation. That's our focus. There's people out there that need us, and we won't let them down. We'll get them food, water, and shelter.
And I know they appreciate it, and there's nobody more welcome at a disaster site than the National Red Cross. I know that firsthand. Peter, is it understood outside metropolitan New Orleans the severe need for boats to try to go out and rescue human beings from rooftops? And if so, is there something in place that allows people to figure out how to get private flat-bottom boats in here?
Well, rescue and recovery operations are not the responsibility of the American Red Cross. We can serve as advocates for the families in need and keep advocating different ways to get it done. But we're a support mode of taking care of the families and their feeding, their clothing, and their emergency needs. But we work side by side with all agencies, local police, state, federal agencies, and together we'll take care of those needs of families who are out there and need assistance. They're not forgotten. We're just trying to figure out how best to get them and how best to get help to them.
That is the first thing that has to be done, and it is proving very difficult to do. Peter Tehan from the National Red Cross. I'm guessing that there are millions of people sitting out in our listening and viewing audience now who are beginning to understand, though I assure you, you don't yet, beginning to understand the enormous of this national disaster. And I'm guessing that you're sitting there going, wow, what can I do? And I know one of the first things you can do if you have the inclination is write a check to the National Red Cross. They're going to need it. They're going to need it desperately within the weeks and months ahead. We'll have continuing coverage of the rescue and recovery effort here in New Orleans and in southeastern Louisiana, across southern Mississippi. Hundreds of people, according to the mayor of New Orleans and the president of Jefferson Parish, still on rooftops more than 30 hours after the storm came through, hoping that at some point someone will come in and rescue them and their families. The disaster of New Orleans and South Mississippi. Continuing coverage on Fox News Channel in a moment.
Because Fox is where the news is.
Introducing E-Trade Complete. Control your financial world from one page and maximize the potential value of every dollar. In other words, be master of your domain. E-Trade Financial. Be extraordinary.
There's more good news for those with arthritis pain. According to a recent survey, orthopedic doctors rated Aleve #1 most effective over-the-counter brand for minor arthritis pain. Ask your doctor about the good news. Ask your doctor about Aleve.
I got it because I couldn't take dial-up another second. Dial-up was so slow.
This is dial-up noise. I had it with the noise.
We all had it with the noise.
More and more people are getting it. Getting Verizon Online DSL, that is. Especially now that it's just $14.95 a month.
With DSL, it's so fast.
It's like boom. I click, I'm connected.
You want to download a file, it's right there.
Finally download music like everyone else.
I don't have to worry about incoming calls.
I can be on the computer and she's on the phone.
Verizon Online DSL makes doing everything online so much easier and so much faster. And now it's at our lowest price ever, just $14.95 a month. Compare that to cable.
costs about the same as dial-up.
It's not that expensive. It's really cheap.
It costs less than cable.
Call 1-866-543-9375 to get Verizon Online DSL. That's 1-866-543-9375 for the best value in broadband.
We got Verizon Online DSL.
And we are never going back to dial-up.
You want to go back?
No, I don't want to go back to dial-up.
Homeowners need cash? You need to know about the no closing cost home equity line of credit from Countrywide Home Loans. Unlike many lenders, with Countrywide there's no application fee, no credit reporting fee, no appraisal fee, no underwriting fee, no closing costs. So you can use more of your loan to pay off credit cards and lower your bills. The no closing cost home equity line of credit from Countrywide. No one can do what Countrywide can. Apply now. Call 1-800-641-8404.
DirecTV is leading the way with more programming choices than anyone else. And with so much to choose from, it's good to get any help you can. Introducing DirecTV Mixed Channels. 6 of the most popular sports, news, or kids shows, all on one screen, all in one place. Making your viewing easier. Just another example of DirecTV rethinking the way television should be.
For the world beyond the disaster area here in Louisiana and South Mississippi, important to consider the economic impact of all of this, which it now appears is going to be enormous. Joining us now is Tobin Smith, a Fox News contributor. He's the founder and chief investment strategist for Change Wave Research and is live with us in our Washington bureau. Hey, Tobin, what does this do to gas prices? How high and for how long?
Well, Shep, obviously gas prices are going to be over $3 on a national average. I mean, you have to look at two things. First off, oil is one of the issues we have. Natural gas, which we'll get to in a second, is even a bigger issue, I think, if you look at the bigger picture. But we're going to have wholesale prices at about $2.60 as of today. Usually add another 60 cents to that to get to the retail price.
Wholesale prices.
Yes, correct. Wholesale prices closed today above $2.50. So we're going to be at $3.20 in most parts of the United States over the next 7 to 8 days, simply because we have, pipelines down there, Shep, as you know. I mean, most people never really realize that 35% of our United States domestic production for oil and for transportation of oil comes out of this area. We have 3 major pipelines
as well. They're down here too, right, Tobin?
Yeah, we have about 18% of all refining in the United States is down in Mississippi and Louisiana. Of that, we have at least 6 of those plants out. Thankfully, the Baton Rouge plant, which happens to be the largest one in the United States, is still going, albeit at a diminished supply. But with 6 to 8 plants out, the problem is this, Shep. We go to 21 million barrels a day of oil. We can only refine 17 million barrels. And because of the shortage in our pipelines, because we have pipelines that go to Chicago, we have pipelines that go to Virginia, that all begin out of Louisiana area. Is a very good likelihood.
We don't yet know what happened to these oil wells, right? We don't know what happened out there yet, any more than we know what happened in southern Plaquemines County.
Right now, 92% of production is shut down right now, Shep. That is the number from the mineral.
Right, but I was talking about the long term. Are they able to get them back up and going? Do we know that yet?
You don't know that yet, but clearly, what we learned from Ivan is that it's not above the water that's so scary, Shep. It's what's below the water, because what you don't see is thousands and thousands of miles of connecting pipes and tubes. That's how that oil gets on shore. During Ivan, we had many of those things absolutely blown apart. They're shut down. There's no oil going into the water. It's not like we're losing gas or oil. They're shut in. But the amount of time it takes you to shut it down, it takes you 2 to 3 times the amount to get it up and going again. Yeah. So it's very likely.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to talk about the other thing here.
Sure.
This is going to require. They haven't said it yet, maybe, but this is going to require an enormous federal effort. And according to locals who were just beginning to try to think about estimates, tens of billions of dollars. What does that do to the federal government?
Well, listen, the federal government, through FEMA, through other agencies, does reserve against this. I mean, this money will come out of reserves. This will come out of operating budgets. And you know what? It will potentially add to the deficit. But listen, Shep, I know how disaster it is down there, but I mean, we do have to think of the fact and put in perspective. We have an $11 trillion economy in the United States. This part of the area is going to be
and
rebuilt.
These people will recover.
And they will.
I have a heartbreak here, Tobin. I wish I didn't, but I have to go because Neil Cavuto's on deck. The best in business next and continuing coverage from New Orleans, South Mississippi, and beyond.